Now the doorbell. That was the patriarchy that was ringing on my parade.
Alright, so I've taken a little break from Captain Marvel, but I think it's time to come back to her. So lately there has been a lot of crap going on with this movie, almost to like a ridiculous amount. It really does support my theory where I said that the movie is almost becoming a cause rather than entertainment. And a lot of this has to do with Brie Larson. So it turns out Brie Larson, as you'll see in a second, had a lot to do with the film's marketing. She wanted it to particularly be a big feminist-driven movie, and she's going around making all these crazy statements. She's really turned this movie into some kind of social cause, where it's just kind of ridiculous. And now we're seeing a lot of stuff coming out about how the movie's going to have lower than expected box office results, and you shouldn't really be surprised when you read that, because the way she's promoting this movie is not something most people want to see. The most hilarious thing that I see is when it's compared to Wonder Woman. I was talking to someone today and I said, you know, I remember when I went and saw Wonder Woman, I didn't feel like I was going to some kind of social event protest. I felt like I was just going to a movie. Captain Marvel feels like it's some kind of social protest. They do it throughout the whole trailer with her standing up throughout of it and saying this is what a female hero looks like and stuff. And with her, we saw it with Entertainment Today when they put the future as female right on the cover, Marvel approved. They're totally hijacking this movie. Now, whether or not the movie is going to be good or not, that remains to be seen. But we won't know until it comes out. All we know is the shilling that's going on for this movie, and it is over the top. So coming here out of Bounding in the Comics, they actually have the projection. A little bit off, though. The latest Captain Marvel opening weekend box office projection is significantly lower than previous projections, coming in at 100 million. Deadline reports early industry estimates are certain that it's headed towards 100 million. They do note that it could be even lower, with one of their sources telling them, give or take, 20 million. So it could come in at $80 million, which, given it will all depend on word of mouth at that point. So if let's say that it does hit 80 million. At that point, you know, it's going to depend on if the movie is actually good or not. And people will, you know, word of mouth will spread, and then it'll probably keep picking up or stay on a nice track pace as, you know, the weeks go on. I, however, have my doubts that it's going to be that good because of the way that the movie is being pitched. So this was the big reveal when we got to see her first wood stump face that never changes, literally ever. It's almost like it's just lifeless, like there's just no soul in her eyes. It's really kind of fascinating and scary at the same time. But her face, she just never smiles. Even when I see her in interviews and stuff lately, it's like a fake forced smile. And I think that happens when you get that NPC bug bit you. Like when that happens, I think you just kind of lose all emotion and feeling. But right there, the future is female. And we know now that this was pushed because Brie Larson has confirmed Marvel wants to make Captain Marvel a big feminist movie. We got some quotes right here. Speaking with Entertainment Tonight during a set visit last May, Brie Larson confirmed Marvel approached her about making Captain Marvel a feminist movie. I had a meeting with Marvel, and what we discussed is they wanted to make a big feminist movie. Director Anna Bodin would confirm the feminist nature of the film. The story lends itself to it. She would add, we're just trying to make this movie about all women. We can't make it all about a woman's journey, but just to be really true to this woman's journey. So, going to say her Carol Danvers is wild. The fact that she is just herself and cannot be contained is pretty awesome. It means that she's like wild. I love that she's unapologetic. I love that she's not apologizing for her strength. First as a human in the Air Force, that she's never had to shrink herself because of who she is. She can't even be somebody else if she wanted to. And then we move on, and we get beautiful things like this. Brie Larson, the star of the upcoming Captain Marvel live-action motion picture, has reiterated her stance that she believes that there are too many whiteys reviewing movies. Speaking with a disabled journalist from Maria Claire on February 7th, 2019, it was revealed that Larson personally requested the disabled journalist as part of her effort to use her privilege to give back.
You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
So she goes on to explain to the disabled journalist she was using her celebrity benevolence to allow the disabled journalist in her presence like a princess to a pauper. What a smug ass. It's just, about a year ago, I started paying attention to what my press days look like and the critics reviewing movies. I noticed, and this is blocked out, appeared to be overwhelmingly white male. So I spoke to Dr. Stacy Smith at the USC Ansberg Inclusion Initiative, who put together a study to confirm that moving forward, I decided to make sure my press days were more inclusive. After speaking with you, the film critic Valerie Complex, and a few others of women of color, it sounded like across the board they weren't getting the same opportunities as others. When I talked to the facilities that weren't providing it, they all had different excuses. What a smug ass. So imagine you're sitting there, right? And you're thinking, wow, I get to have an interview with Captain Marvel, with Brie Larson. And she sits down and says, I'm so glad you're here. I requested you because you're in a wheelchair. What do you think that makes that person feel like? How would you feel if that's what, you knew you were there because you were requested because you're disabled? Like, not because you're there because of your merits or that you worked hard and you got requested to be there from your boss or whatever because of your hard-hitting journalism. No, is there because Brie Larson wanted to pity you from her high cloud. Wow, man, that is some arrogant stuff, isn't it? That is really arrogant. So, continuing on, we get some more stuff, like how Captain Marvel is Brie's form of activism. So we go on here. Larson will push the activism during her global press tour for Captain Marvel, describing that she has pledged to spotlight other women behind the scenes, insisting on gender and racial parity in the press and wearing mostly female designers. How is that, like, balanced or whatever? Mostly female designers. Isn't that funny? For things to be totally, awesome, we have to have less dudes. It's got to be more women. That's what the hell, man. So Larson even launching a school to make her activism a reality. My next goal is to start a school to train people in various jobs. There are so many great jobs. You're like the weird alien blasters. You could be the one that makes them. We need young people to carry this tradition in movie making, and it would be so awesome if we had more diversity coming in through that. Larson goes on to state that she wants the studios to buy into her activism as well. I don't want to be successful and surrounded by a bunch of people who look like me. That doesn't feel like success at all. To that end, she indicates that she's already making it happen with Warner Brothers. Just Mercy film with Michael B. Jordan that implanted her inclusion rider clause. So she's actually got this garbage in her contract. She's going to go broke from being so woke. So I want to look at some of the shilling real quick before we take off out of here. I'm not going to go through them all. I just want to highlight them. So here it is right here. This was a shill article. Brie Larson wants to save her Captain Marvel press tour from being overwhelmingly white. Boy, that really makes you want to go see that movie, doesn't it? Even more, making this movie about a cause. And then we can move on to this one. Here's some more shilling. Sorry, haters. Captain Marvel's on track for heroic box office numbers. So here, they're talking about how 100 million plus opening is going to destroy it. Even though it's like this, that would be the 6th, according to some other reports, as far as superhero openings. But what I really hate is how they're comparing it. Okay, so this is going to be similar to Wonder Woman's numbers, right? Somehow I doubt that. If there's one thing that I felt when I remember the Wonder Woman trailers is I didn't feel like I was being lectured. Like, it didn't feel like a cause. It was just like, okay, cool. Wonder Woman movie. All right, yeah, I'll check that out. And then with this movie, I feel like I'm being lectured with every trailer sometimes. Like the way they just have her just doing all these things. I'm standing up because I'm a woman. So the propaganda in it has been there since the start. But there seems to be a push, right? One thing I've noticed is they want this movie to do better than Wonder Woman. I don't think that's going to happen. Number one, Wonder Woman is actually an iconic, long-running, loved character. Captain Marvel is a relatively new, unknown character with poor marketing, using like an activism to try to sell the movie. We already saw that happen once with Ghostbusters. That was a disastrous box office. And they actually did a lot of the same similar stuff, just like they're doing here. This Captain Marvel doesn't have to prove a darn thing by everyone's favorite cook, Scott Mendelson. You can go here. Brie Larson is just as much my hero as Carol Danvers, where they just pretty much shill for how great and open and her activism and wokeness. And then we go here. This was my favorite. Captain Marvel's Brie Larson can't save womankind, but she's doing her best. This is the marketing for this movie, and this is why this movie is going to probably maybe fail. I don't want to say for sure it will, right? I haven't even seen it. I could go in there and see it and be like, man, the marketing was dead wrong. This movie was actually pretty good. And, you know, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But we've seen this before where they're pushing this narrative and it feels like, you know, it just doesn't feel like you're going to a movie. It feels like you're going to a protest. And at the end of the day, people go to the movies for escapism. And this doesn't feel like escapism. It feels like a lecture. Whether I'm wrong or right, only time will tell. Anyway, let me know what you know. Let me know what you think in the comments about all of this. Are you excited for this movie? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think it's going to be successful? Do you think it's going to be a bomb? I want to hear your opinions. Also, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Check out the links in the description. And I'll see all of you real soon. Stand with Vic.